part 6 of my life story because it's just easier than writing another book. I'm like 8 or 9 years old, and we're moving from California up to Oregon. And we were in the far northeast corner of Oregon in this tiny little county. It's Wallowa County. And the towns up there, it's really beautiful. It's a rather high elevation. It's Nez Perce land, or it was before it was colonialized. That's like a thing. But it's beautiful land up there. And the whole family was from Oklahoma, was up there. And so Grandma Barbara and all the kids, and so mom and dad, they moved us up there, and we were living in these apartments. And it's a real small town. Like the entire town of Joseph had like 1,000, maybe 1,500 people. The whole county had like 6,000 people. So it's a really small community in the mountains of Oregon, and it's just beautiful. And there's this huge lake up there, Wallowa Lake, and it's just a beautiful location. Boy, the dogs are going crazy around here today. So we're in Joseph, Oregon, and we're living in these like low-income apartments, but they were actually pretty nice. And there was a whole bunch of us from the family in there. I think we had like 4 or 5 different apartments. Like my mom, dad, and I had our own, and so did a lot of the other families. And we would go out to Grandma Barbara's house, which was out of town, and that was where we would have our Sunday church. And this was incredibly wild, but it was like every Sunday the whole family would get together, and it was like an all-day church and potluck, and we would eat and play and talk. And boy, would they talk, because in a matriarchal, when it's a bunch of women, God, they can go on for hours. But the beliefs were just wild. There was lots of speaking in tongues, there was casting out of demons, and this was where things really started to get wild for me, because it was like I could see things, and I didn't understand why like they would call spirits in and then cast them out. And it was just so bizarre to watch them put someone in the circle. And there was like, one point, there was even the demons of Walmart. It was so funny. And I like, that's so true. It was. And yet so weird, especially from a child's perspective, because it was like just so crazy and so intense. And there was always someone in the middle, and water and anointing oil, and like it was wild intense. But that was like every Sunday. And my dad and one of the daughters' husbands, so like my uncle, I guess you could say, my dad and my fake uncle, they started a business. It was J&L Small Engine Repair in Enterprise, Oregon. And it was when my dad finally got clean for the first time ever. Like, I didn't know till after he was dead all the things that he had done and really how bad his life was. They had protected me from all of that. He was a great father to me. He wasn't there a lot, but he was really good to me. And later I found out about all the drugs, and like he just had a wild life that he never was able to clean up. But they had this small business. They were repairing like lawn mowers and chainsaws and stuff like that. But my dad would go out into the wilderness a lot because it was one of the few places that he could really find peace. And he was cutting cords of wood, but he didn't have a truck. And so he would go out, he would borrow someone's truck and go out and cut a cord of wood and then come back into town and sell it. And he always had pew-pews, those things. He always had those because it was just something that, it's part of a hunting lifestyle. And he had been clean for about 6 months when he was unalived. He had really started to get his life together and was becoming stable for the first time ever. And my mom and dad, they had gotten in a little bit of debt, and they had never had debt before. And about 3 weeks before the incident, he sat down with my mom, and he explained to her that he had peace, that everything was going to work out, and he didn't know how, but it was all going to be okay. And at the same time, my mom was going back and forth between Joseph, where we lived, and Milton Freewater, Walla Walla, Washington. It's a few hour drive. She was going back and forth and taking care of my great uncle. And he was an elderly old man that was just so taken advantage of by his daughter that he had adopted, and she was taking care of him. He was old and frail, and she had basically just abandoned him in this big house. And my mom said, you know what, I'm going to take care of him for the rest of his life. Like, he's almost done. And she's going to take care of him. And so I would go back and forth some between Joseph and then taking care of Uncle Giff. And it was, life just felt normal, like everything was okay. And one day, my dad was going to go out and cut wood. He was borrowing a truck, and the deal in order to use the truck was that he needed to take the son of the person who owned the truck. And so they were going to go out and get wood, and Mom was going to go up and see Uncle Giff. And it was my decision as to who I was going to go with. And I chose to go with my mom. And it wasn't an easy decision. Like, I've overthought this a lot because the leading up to it. This decision tormented me because my dad and Chris went out into the woods by themselves and they were drinking. And had I been there, my dad wouldn't have been drinking. But they were drinking and Chris was driving his dad's truck. And at some point, he rolled the truck. Like, he got into a car accident. There was like 3 feet of snow on the ground. It was late October. And he rolled the truck, and we just have to assume they were arguing as they were walking back towards town. And the story is that he unalived my father and then walked about a mile further in towards town and unalived himself. And I don't think that's true. I don't have any evidence of anything different. But Chris, he used his left hand, but he was very right-handed. Neither of their wallets were ever found, but they were both unalived in the process. And so the official story is that he killed my father and then killed himself. But I don't think that is true. I think they just painted it in a certain way because it was the first unaliving in 10 years, and they had no idea how to investigate. And the police report was just awful. I don't know if I still have it. I may have lost it in the hurricane. It was all written in CB handles. They didn't even use real names in the police report. And my mom just was like, what's done is done. I can't change what happened. But his death actually removed all of the debt. And then there was on their joint bank account, there was a small $10,000 policy. And so my mom ended up getting this life insurance policy. $10,000 in '89 went a lot further than it does now. But it was really a lot. My mom did a lot of soul searching. And that summer, her and I went on a 3-month trip, and we went up to Canada. We spent part of the summer in Canada. We went to the East Coast. We went to Disneyland. We just traveled all over, and my mom was looking to find herself and to do something new. And that was a big spiritual wake-up call for her. And when we got back to Oregon, everything really changed. She bought a house for the first time ever, and I went crazy. Really, really crazy. So we'll get to that next.